There's always that one girl who seemingly has her life together. She gets up at 6 a.m. every day. She goes to the gym. She has her green smoothies. She writes in her gratitude journal. And she's hyper-focused on becoming the best version of herself. And now TikTok wants us to all become that girl. And today we're going to be talking about that girl from TikTok. I want to kind of dive deep into how that girl even came about, what that girl actually symbolizes, and why it might not be either realistic or even healthy to aspire to being that girl. And of course, like and comment below and let me know your thoughts as well. Like, if you think I'm wrong, let me know. To understand that girl, we need to understand where that girl even came from, and we need to go back to Pinterest girl, YouTube girl. So Pinterest girl was maybe 2014, 2015, and she was basically the living aesthetic, but a more static version of what you see today as that girl. She was the girl who had the perfect hair, the perfect gratitude journal, the perfect mood board essentially of all the different aspects of life that people could aspire to. Tell you how to do it, but she did give you a why. She gave you a reason to aspire to this aesthetic, and she's the very beginnings of that girl. But Pinterest girl very quickly graduated to YouTube girl. Oh, YouTube girl, in the height of 2016, 2017, that girl space was YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you will see millions of views on videos from 2016, 2017 of morning routines. Morning routines showing you essentially how to become that girl. So now Pinterest girl, kind of absolute, yeah, she's on your vision board, because YouTube girl is showing you how to become that girl. She's showing you the habits you can incorporate to become that girl. She's giving you a step-by-step manual on how to become that girl. But unlike TikTok that girl, YouTube that girl is focused on productivity. She's in the height of her Toby Robbins, Tim Ferriss era, where she has all the productivity books. She's focused not on becoming really the best version of herself, but how to use her time the most productively. Hence why she talks about morning routines. It's very based on automatic habits. It's not based on your inner monologue or inner changes of you as a person, just based on those automatic habits. I would consider that girl on TikTok kind of a crossover of Pinterest girl, the why, the aesthetic, with YouTube girl, who has all the productivity hacks, has all the ways of becoming that girl, and thus creating TikTok that girl, because she gives you a beautiful inner monologue about why she's becoming that girl, how she's changing slowly inside, but she's also showing you through the TikTok video how, you know, the habits that she used to become that girl. So in all, it's an evolution. You know, that girl has graduated to TikTok. The next question is that girl even achievable? The short answer is yes. The long answer is more complicated. So that girl's premise is basically on automatic habits, and as we see from books like Automatic Habits or Joe Dispenza's book, if neurons fire together, they wire together. So if you change your habits, you can change your mindset. You can change your neural pathways to become essentially better version of yourself. So in essence, yes, if you change your habits, you can become a more productive person. You can become a more grounded person. You can, you know, through meditation, through journaling, through all the stuff that girl also does. So yeah, you can become that girl. However, then we have to go, however, there are several problems to that girl which actually make her not so achievable. Number one, that girl is still too aesthetic. So in counter to that girl, there are new videos coming up of I'm not aesthetic enough for that girl, where girls basically show that they're doing the same things as that girl, but it's not as aesthetic. You know, their food is not as aesthetically presented, but they're still eating healthy every day. They might not be going on gorgeous runs and looking perfect with sweat dripping down their face, but they're going on runs every day. The thing is, that girl, if she's going to be successful in TikTok and she's going to be on your For You page, most probably is also aesthetically pleasing to look at. However, that's not necessarily the case when you actually do those actions. You might not always look aesthetically pleasing. It's also quite ironic that that girl is talking about being hyper focused on herself, being hyper into automatic habits and being grounded in her habits, but she's also filming a TikTok video on it, running with her phone, or having the camera on while she's doing these meditative practices or these self-reflective practices. I'm not trying to bash that girl. I'm not trying to say she's false or that she's selling a false narrative, but you have to admit that that girl puts a lot of effort to present herself as that girl, and thus she is still focused primarily on aesthetic because she wants to make a nice TikTok video. And that can mess with people's brains, because you start to think, if I want to be that girl, I have to look aesthetic when I'm doing these things. I have to look good when I have that morning run, or when I'm making that smoothie. That smoothie has to look good. The next problem with that girl is that she is only accessible to a few of us when we realistically look at it. That girl has to be of a certain lifestyle to achieve that girl, because that girl essentially is a morning routine. That girl is essentially some prime habits which not everyone can do. For example, if you're commuting and you're spending 2 hours on a train, can you really realistically every day do all these habits that you're talking about? What do you do, and how do you become that girl if you have 5 flatmates and the bathroom is being hogged by 2 of them? How are you going to do this morning routine? What happens when it breaks down? What happens when reality comes into play? That girl seems to be working from home, which is fine during COVID, but that's not the life that every person is living. You know, some people are living 9 to 5s. Some people are having 9 to 5s. Some people have caring responsibilities for their siblings or for even their parents, their family. So how can that person become that girl? Because you're talking and you're showing your life and how hyper-focused and hyper-vigilant you are in making sure you do these habits every single day. But some people's lives, they have distractions they cannot get rid of. They're their responsibilities. So that goal seems to only be achievable for a few, as long as you live a certain lifestyle. Maybe you work in tech, maybe you can stay home, maybe you can build your habits around your flexible 9 to 5. I don't know, but that goal seems to be only accessible for a few. It doesn't seem to be accessible for all, especially those who have to commute every morning. And yeah, you can say, yep, I could get up at 4 a.m, you can get up and do this, but what happens to that girl when there are shifts or changes in her life, or shifts or changes in her job? How does she still aspire to be that girl? And that girl apparently has uninterrupted time to do all these activities where no one's going to come and bother her. She has all this alone time where no one's going to come and talk to her, no one's going to come and expect things from her, which is fine. I know there are some girls living like that, but you have to acknowledge that's not everyone's reality. And to place that girl as the ideal, when in the first place she has a very, in some sense, privileged life to be able to become that girl, that's very insidious to me. That is not correct. To place her as the ideal. We're all living different lives where we all have different struggles. So to aspire to be this person when that person not have fewer struggles, but they have an easier chance to become that girl.
You've been sending flowers to me, flowers today.
Isabel Palocious, who is an amazing YouTuber, once made a video about becoming a dream woman. It's one of my favorite videos, and I'm going to link it down below for everyone. And she basically talked about how that ideal woman is her when no one else is looking, but she's also her, and she's being her during difficult situations. And I think that's so true with other people. We never see that girl interact with other people. We don't know how she is around other people. It's very simple to say, well, I can do all these routines and I can be that person when I'm by myself, but how are you that person when you're with other people? What do you do when you're confronted with issues with your family or your friends, or someone's going through a difficult time? What do you even do when you find issues in your own life, like a leak in your apartment which ruins your whole morning routine? How are you that girl? There's not, and I understand it's a TikTok video, but there's not enough depth to actually become that girl based on what they show on TikTok, because you don't know what she's doing when she's in hard times, when she's under pressure. And I think that's very important, because before we try and achieve this aesthetic of that girl and doing all these things to become that girl, we need to think about, well, yeah, I'm having a gratitude journal, I'm meditating, I'm journaling, but how do I actually interact with people outside of that bubble, outside of my introspective bubble? How am I applying my introspection to the outside and actually changing myself to the outside when I become that girl? They never show us that. So we never actually see the end result of that girl. We see her doing a lot of journey, like we see the journey and her doing a lot of things on that journey. We don't actually see what she does as that girl when she's put in external situations, and I feel that's an incomplete picture of that girl. Like, if she's truly that girl, we need to see how she is with other people, doing with other people, because that's not part of that girl experience. But I think it is part of that girl experience, because we do not live in silos. The internet, especially TikTok, has tried to make us think we live in a silo environment where we can just focus on ourselves and it's just us in this world, just doing us. But in reality, we have to go out at some point, maybe after COVID, simmers down. We have to go out, we have to interact. So we need to become that girl even in those situations.
You've been sending flowers to me, flowers today.
Last critique of that girl and why I don't aspire to be that girl is because she presents her life as a trajectory from normal her to improved that girl, and her journey is just an upwards one to a culmination of that girl. But that's not how life works. We don't really see the inner workings of who she becomes as a person, how she handles setbacks when there's like disruption to her routine, there's disruption to her journey. She's just presented as this monolith of, you do these automatic habits, you become that girl, and you just become confident. What happens in the lulls of life when you don't always feel confident? She never shows that, because that's not aesthetic enough to show. That's not aesthetic enough for a TikTok video, but it does present a very warped sense of that girl.
What sucks is when you're doing the things, like you're reading the books, you're listening to the podcast, you're doing the meditations, you're journaling, you're doing all of these practices, these healing practices to try to make sense of this journey of life that we're on, but you still feel lost. And because we're forgetting to just let ourselves be, we're shoving all of this knowledge inside of our brain, trying to make sense of everything, trying to learn and expand and grow in every single moment. But in some moments, we don't need to expand. Some moments, we just need to be where we are and honor the space that we're in and the chapter that we're in. So if you're in this mode of like, I need to grow, I need to expand, I need to unpack, I need to heal, just relax. There's no rush. You can just be. It's okay. We're good. You got this.
If we truly want to become that girl, but that's not shown. That gritty side of that girl is not shown. It's just shown as you do these habits. You are that girl.
Flowers to Flowers today, flowers today.
Beginning, you're like, oh no, it's a lifestyle change, and that has a lot of mental strain on you. You know, a real diet or a proper healthy living, what separates it from a diet to healthy living is a proper mental change. And I'm sorry, it doesn't just happen through automatic habits. It happens through reflecting on your past, you know, having difficult conversations with people, having difficult conversations with yourself. It's not just an upward trajectory to that girl. But we don't see any of that on TikTok. But they do this whole big makeover and whole big styling thing and take off her glasses and like, oh my god, she's all that, she's that girl. But she was always that girl. She just needed to find it within herself. She didn't need this big transformation. She didn't need all that. So let me know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts about that girl? What things you could do to become that girl? Please do subscribe and you can stay with my sunflower babies. And see you next week.